designed to increase consumer rights and protections, and which fills another Marshall government pre-election commitment. Another Marshall government pre-election commitment, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's startling the frequency with which we are sort of ticking these off. But this particular one will strengthen the protections for consumers against ticket scalpers. As someone who loves his footy, Mr Deputy Speaker, and sport in general, I am someone who has regularly bought tickets to events which I really want to attend. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have bothered buying a ticket to that event, Mr Deputy Speaker. But showdowns particularly are exciting for me, and I enjoy coming down to Adelaide to watch Port play Adelaide regularly. And in the past, I've hastily got online to purchase tickets for myself, family and friends, and it's really disappointing when you find out you've been too slow and that they have been sold out already. It's even more frustrating and basically unfair to see the tickets that you had hoped to buy to a couple of events and you had hoped to spend your hard-earned money on so that you could enjoy watching a game you really wanted to see, or taking your girlfriend to a concert she really wanted to see, which is more common than not, one that she wants to see rather than one I want to see. But nonetheless, nonetheless, if you're trying to get some branding points, it's not a bad practice to get into to go to those particular concerts. But then they're available for private sale online on social media at hugely inflated prices that place them out of reach for the average punter. This bill aims to right this wrong, to offer increased protection for consumers so more of us can enjoy going to events that are developed and designed and marketed for the general public to enjoy. Ticket prices have been carefully set to assure that events can meet its costs. So to assure that the event can meet its costs, yes, but to also ensure accessibility and affordability for as many people as feasibly possible. In this way, this bill offers protection for the event organiser and official promoter, who is often unfairly slurred by the precedent of overpriced ticketing from ticket scalpers. The practice that unfairly reflects on event organisers who are left appearing like they have let their patrons down, that they have not offered protection for them by scalpers, that they haven't offered enough reasonably priced tickets, or that they don't care about their attendees or whether they can afford to attend the event or not. The unjust result can be that event organisers can appear to be discriminating against sections of the community, only catering for the elite, preventing many from joining in because the tickets are priced out of their budget. And this is unfair to the people and organisations who work hard to organise and market the quality events this state has become renowned for. It is simply not fair, not just or fair, when prices are out of reach of the people the event is intended to attract, and this bill will go a long way to restoring the faith of South Australians who have been impacted by the activity of ticket scalpers, who have been able to increase their activities in recent years with the rise of social media and Facebook reach into every household in our state. As outlined in the Marshall Liberal Government's 2036 policy papers pre-election, we need to stop dishonest scalpers to ensure sports and entertainment fans aren't fleeced by massive price markups. And the purpose of this important bill and the amendment to the fair trading laws is to protect the public from exploitation. It is recognised that there are already current laws that protect consumers from being forced to pay massive prices to ticket scalpers, but the current law only applies to formally declared major events, which are relatively rare, and that even then there has been no serious attempts to enforce that law. The fact that there has been so few scalpers prosecuted under existing laws, in fact I understand there to be none, Mr Deputy Speaker, means that scalpers are just laughing all the way to their bank accounts, and this issue has done nothing to restore public confidence in this state's governance. The example of the first 2017 showdown between the Crows and the Power has been discussed, with scalpers easily acquiring tickets and marking them up by 300%, making them out of reach and disappointing hundreds of families. Such instances have created much emotion around this issue and has thankfully served to highlight the need for action. In fact, it was a huge backlash against ticket scalping at the 2001 AFL Grand Final that sparked considerable debate on the issue and forced response in parliaments across our land. But I'll speak more on that later. This bill before us will repeal Section 9 of the Major Events Act and amend the Fair Trading Act so that the laws apply to any event in South Australia that is subject to resale restrictions. This bill will also prohibit the advertising or its hosting of any event where tickets are selling for over 110% of the ticket price, in addition to capping the total resale price to 110% of the total acquisition price. The maximum penalty to do so in the case of a body corporate is proposed to be $100,000, and in the case of a natural individual to be $20,000. Sufficient deterrence, I believe. Existing law does not address technological advances since its original passage, including the advent of ticket bots that purchase tickets online far faster than a person can, and in bulk, wiping out thousands of opportunities in a second. And this is criminal. This bill outlaws the use of ticket bots and provides affected parties such as ticketing agencies, venue operators, artists and sports codes with the right to commence proceedings against people using bots and selling tickets above the cap. Increasingly, computer programs or bots are being used to enable scalpers to buy up tickets in a remarkably quick time. The use of bots allows security measures on ticketing websites to be cheated so that large numbers of tickets can be purchased. This not only blocks fans, but enables the scalpers to take a free ride on the back of organisers who run the risk of staging events. The bill makes changes to the Major Events Act to enable promoters to declare more events a major event in order for them to be protected by the new laws and from ticket scalpers. It is unacceptable that the existing process to have an event declared a major one is expensive and time-consuming, which has deterred so many from going down that path. This new Marshall Liberal government is committed to running an efficient and stable government, with particular emphasis on increased transparency and openness to combat a rising public tide of mistrust and disaffection from the political process, and more protection for consumers. With today's ability for anyone to easily set up online campaigns and reach thousands quickly and easily based on lies or otherwise, dubbed around the world as fake news, more and more corrupt behaviour is occurring, affecting increasing numbers of people. You only need to keep up with a list of scams circulating at any time to know that there are very serious professional, sinister communicators from around the world infiltrating our lives here in South Australia. So it is little wonder that people have become disengaged and confused by who to trust where. If you can't trust the son of a deposed Nigerian prince to give you money, then who can you trust? Member for Newland. Ticket scalpers are scammers in this same way and must be stopped. Other states too have introduced measures to prevent scalping to send a clear message to these opportunists that they are not welcome. This bill is largely modelled on legislation that has passed in New South Wales very recently. In fact, only since 1 June 2018, New South Wales has had its new ticket reselling laws, which, similarly to this proposed bill, makes it against the law to resell tickets above the original value plus 10%. The New South Wales laws also include a protection for consumers preventing tickets that have been resold at or below face value plus 10% being cancelled by event organisers. Under New South Wales law, it is now recognised that buying a ticket from a scalper, whether in person, online or over the phone, carries two main risks. The ticket may not be genuine or may not be provided at all. A ticket bought from a scalper may be cancelled by the event organiser if the ticket was resold for more than 10% above the original cost. The new New South Wales laws to target ticket scalping apply to all tickets to New South Wales events that are first sold or supplied by the authorised seller from 1 June 2018 and have a resale restriction. A resale restriction is a term or condition of a ticket that limits the circumstances in which the ticket may be resold or prohibits resale of the ticket. This bill will work in a similar way, Mr Deputy Speaker. A difference is the New South Wales penalty for selling tickets over the 10% cap carries a maximum $11,000 penalty for individuals compared to our proposed $20,000 and $22,000 for businesses compared to our $100,000 for body corporates. Looking at Queensland's work in this area, they too are legislated only recently and their new laws applies only to events at 9 designated major Queensland venues. In Queensland, like this bill before us, it is illegal to resell or buy a ticket at a price greater than 10% above the original ticket price. But the law applies to only events held in specific venues, and there are 9 stadiums and venues listed where ticket scalping rules apply. The Victorian Government also recently passed similar laws with its major events legislation amendment, Ticket Scalping and Other Matters Act 2018, which amended the Major Sporting Events Act 2009 in relation to ticket scalping. In undertaking research on this topic, it was interesting to read the efforts in 2010-11 to explore the merits of a national reform legislative response to this issue. The idea was considered to have merit by the Commonwealth Consumer Affairs Advisory Council, given that there were holes in the existing legal framework across all state jurisdictions, and the Council proposed an issues paper on the topic at the invitation of then Minister for Competition, Policy and Consumer Affairs, the Honourable Dr Craig Emerson MP. The Commonwealth Consumer Affairs Advisory Council invited interested stakeholders to make submissions on the topic, and submissions were received from varying sources, including individuals, sporting organisations, online auction websites and ticketing agencies. Also including a number of high-profile sporting organisations, among them Tennis Australia and Cricket Australia, who voiced their opposition to the practice of ticket scalping and called for the introduction of a uniform national regulatory scheme against the practice. However, the bid failed, unfortunately, with a final report concluding national regulation was unnecessary, largely because the existing legislative framework was considered adequate. That said, at the time it was believed by many that a golden opportunity to address outstanding problems with existing anti-scalping legislation, namely the difficulties of enforcing the state-based anti-scalping laws and the confusion for event organisers who operate across multiple jurisdictions, had been squandered. By opponents of the decision, it was broadly considered that whilst uniform national anti-scalping laws may not have stopped the practice altogether, it would have been a useful deterrent for event organisers to have. Quoting from a submission to the Commonwealth Consumer Affairs Advisory Council back in 2010, Tennis Australia stated that it was against the unauthorised on-selling of tickets for profit and adopted this stance because it believed it had an obligation as a not-for-profit organisation to ensure that events of national and international significance it organises, in particular the Australian Open Tennis Tournament, are as accessible to as many people as possible. It was highlighted at the time by Tennis Australia that it sets ticket prices to ensure accessibility and that ticket scalping practices undermine this effort. In Cricket Australia's submission to the Commonwealth Consumer Affairs Advisory Council inquiry, it raised a similar argument, surprisingly, adding that scalping is a direct breach of contract that should not be aided or assisted in any circumstances, and that scalping involves profiteering by individuals who take advantage of our policy of setting affordable ticket prices and our strategy of providing an opportunity for all Australians and Australian families to attend cricket matches. And what a wonderful event the Adelaide Test is, Mr Deputy Speaker, and a beautiful time to attend out the back there in sunny Adelaide in the middle of December. The Coalition of Major Professional and Participation Sports submission to the Commonwealth Consumer Affairs Advisory Council gave additional rationales against ticket scalping, namely that it exposes consumers to counterfeited tickets, undermines the integrity of authorised sales and preys on the genuine fans of the sport. Our parliamentary research library here in this place provided interesting material from interesting sources, and I must quote from a paper published some years ago, admittedly, in 2006, written by Lyndon Griggs, Senior Lecturer in Law at the University of Tasmania, which was entitled, and probably still is entitled, Ticket Scalping, Its Legal and Economic Effects on the Illusion of Perfect. Yes, an interesting title, and so named because it attempts to highlight the vital role sport plays in our society, the value it plays in our daily lives, and the need for all codes and forms to be accessible for all. The paper provided details of the intent of the Sports Event Ticketing Fair Access Act 2002, developed in Victoria in response to the huge public backlash there that I mentioned before against the scalping of tickets for the AFL Grand Final 2001. This legislation sought to control the secondary market in the selling of tickets, as well as controlling the activity in the physical vicinity of venues. The article from Lyndon Griggs explores the principles behind consumer protection in anti-scalping legislation and practical solutions offered as a way of reaching a compromise between the economics of allowing a scarce resource to be allocated to the person prepared to pay the most, as against the inherent backlash by the traditional fan towards perceived extortionate prices charged in the secondary market. I particularly like the paper's introduction, which I believe got to the heart of the intent of this bill in this House today and what sparked the writing of legislation in Victoria in 2002 after the AFL Grand Final ticket scalping experience. And the introduction offered this: the role of sport in the Australian psyche has rarely been underestimated. The tribal attachment to a football code and team, the insatiable appetite for information in respect of the players, and the burgeoning coverage of domestic and international sport in the all-pervading media clearly demonstrate that, for many Australians, this country would cease to resemble a civilised society if all sport ceased tomorrow. Here I say, Mr Deputy Speaker. It goes on to say, not a recent phenomenon as we recall the ancient civilisations and the sporting stadia that they produced. The Colosseum bearing a striking resemblance to the modern architecture of the MCG, Wembley, the New Orleans Superdome and Candlestick in San Francisco. It further goes on. Given sport's exalted status, organisers and sporting codes have an obligation to ensure that if sport is to retain this position, it must be run efficiently and fairly. Otherwise, the disillusionment of the fan base, the consumers supporting the infrastructure, will be self-evident and quickly dissipate any long-held goodwill. The illusion of perfect innocence will be forever lost, and hence the tie-in to the paper's unusual title. I will continue to quote from that paper, Mr Deputy Speaker. For this reason, ticket scalping, the practice of buying tickets for major sporting events at a low price and selling high, must balance the consumer-driven demand for tickets to be available in the secondary market against the palpably angry response to the long-suffering fan who is unable to attend the finale of a season due to the excess demand in the marketplace and the pricing of tickets beyond her or his reach. Despite ticket scalping arguably representing the quintessential essence of a capitalist-free market economy, it is generally regarded as an abhorrent and as something to be controlled. Another colourful quote contained in the paper, which I feel I must share. Many people believe scalpers are the cockroaches of the entertainment industry. They were there at the beginning and they'll be there at the end, hawking front row seats to the apocalypse. So yes, this issue of ticket scalping significantly upsets many across our society, and rightly so. As vowed prior to the election by Premier Marshall, we will protect the public from ticket scalpers so that they can enjoy major events like footy matches and concerts without being exploited. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill will prohibit the advertising or hosting of any event where its tickets are selling for over 110% of the ticket price, in addition to capping the total resale value price to 110% of the total acquisition price. It will also require that any resale advertisement includes specific details such as the original cost and seating arrangement. It will outlaw software such as ticket bots, which contravene the terms and conditions of websites that sell tickets. Importantly, Mr Deputy Speaker, it will increase the number of compliance officers for enforcement of minor breaches. And I note in doing some research for this topic that was a criticism of the scheme implemented in Canada. They implemented a policy to control the amount of ticket bots but didn't have the necessary enforcement officers there, and it found that there was little result found at the end of the day. And this increasing number of compliance officers should prevent against that happening again. So in conclusion, this is another part of the Marshall Liberal government's pre-election commitments which we're delivering. Another part, and I fully support the intent and this bill and hope its passage is swift through this House, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Member for Morford. Well, thank you, Deputy Speaker. And